the most difficult one. We're going to need to get some of these banks to cooperate, to reduce and refinance some of these distressed loans so that affordable housing can be created. It's not going to be easy because some of these banks have a different conception of right and wrong than you and I have. They want to take taxpayer money but not return any money back to the taxpayer. They want to benefit from the public without making sure the public benefits. They want a government handout without extending a helping hand back out to the government and the communities that we serve. They have a different conception of right and wrong than you and I have. But these are banks that benefit from our deposits, benefit from our pension fund, benefit from the bailout, and I will not let them get away with turning their backs on our community. So, that is why we work so hard to secure the cooperation of every level of government in order to make Project Reclaim a reality. And every level of government has responded. New York City Controller John Liu has responded. He will be working with us to get bank cooperation. New York State Controller has responded. He will be working with us to get bank cooperation. Even the White House has responded. And I'm hopeful that the Department of Treasury will be working with us to get the banks to cooperate. The message to these financial institutions should be loud and clear. Either do the right thing or we're going to make you do the right thing. And afford to call home. Tragedy struck our neighborhood this past summer when Shell Walker, an unarmed 49-year-old African-American male, was killed on his mother's front stoop, just a few hundred feet from where we are right now, by an undercover police officer who mistook him for a criminal. Now, it seems like whenever situations like this occur, the NYPD's primary response is to defend the officer. Protect their own regardless of the facts. At times, they'll even call the media before they call the grieving family. And unfortunately, they have a whole lot of experience in this area. Amadou Diallo, Patrick Dorismond, Timothy Stansberry, Usman Zongo, Sean Bell, Omar Edwards, the list goes on and on. They have a lot of experience in this area. And in each and every one of these instances, with the exception of the Zongo case, not a single officer involved was ever convicted. And now, tragedy has been visited upon us. The cameras have left, the news trucks have left, the reporters have left, but the struggle for justice must continue. The district attorney's investigation is ongoing, and we have asked for a grand jury indictment so that the facts of this case can be evaluated in a fair and comprehensive way. And beyond the investigation, we need bold, dramatic, legislative reform of the criminal justice system. We need to make sure that we have a permanent, independent prosecutor in instances of police brutality. Because the relationship between the police and the district attorney is too close. That is the reason why there's a failure to prosecute officers, like the one who shot Omar Edwards in the back. We need to make sure that we reform the change of venue rules, which are too often abused. That is the reason why the 4 officers who killed Amadou Diallo in a hail of 41 bullets were able to transfer their case from the Bronx to Albany County, where each and every one of them was acquitted. We need to make sure that when police officers are charged with violent crimes,
Yes.
they are required to have their cases heard by a jury of their peers. Far too many officers are able to select bench trials, and judges rarely convict them. That is what happened in the Sean Bell case, where the officers who killed an unarmed, innocent man on his wedding day were all found not guilty by a judge. We deserve a criminal justice system that is colorblind, regardless of whether the defendant is wearing a black hoodie or a blue uniform. I have great respect for the police, but I just want to make sure the police have great respect for us. And I will continue to fight for a criminal justice system that treats everyone in this community equally under the law. We just celebrated the life and the legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. And Dr. King once prophetically stated that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And throughout his life, he dealt with issues like racism, segregation, hunger, unemployment, poverty. He confronted injustice wherever he might find it. Dr. King was taken from us in 1968. It's interesting that in that very same year, Congress passed comprehensive legislation dealing with the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And Section 3 of the 1968 HUD Act, as it is called, requires that whenever the federal government provides funding to a public housing entity like NYCHA, 30% of the money is supposed to be used to create local employment and economic development opportunities for public housing residents, local businesses, and the surrounding community. Now, Section 3 has been the law for more than 40 years. And for more than 40 years, it has not been enforced. In our community, we have several major public housing developments: Ingersoll, Whitman, Farragut, and Lafayette Gardens. And the failure to enforce Section 3 has had real and adverse consequences on public housing residents, local businesses, and the community at large, particularly during these very difficult economic times. It's often said that when Wall Street catches a cold, the rest of us get a fever. Well, for much of this past year, Wall Street has had the flu. And a whole lot of folks in our community are suffering from economic pneumonia. And so, when you look at 40 years of a failure to enforce Section 8, Section 3, we have lost out on tens of millions of dollars that should have been used to create neighborhood jobs in areas like construction, carpentry, and electrical engineering. Instead, those opportunities went to folks who live in other places, like Long Island, Westchester County, and the New Jersey suburbs. The rich get richer, and the poor get poorer. But as we move forward, we now have been presented with an opportunity to correct some of this past injustice. The Obama administration recently announced that they were allocating $423 million in stimulus money to the New York City Public Housing Authority. $108 million has been specifically allocated to the public housing developments in our community. It's the largest single award anywhere in New York State. And all $108 million is Section 3 eligible. Now, I don't know why there was a failure to enforce Section 3 in the past. There's a new sheriff in town right now.